Hello and very welcome everyone to this session of Ancient History Part 10. In today's session, we are going to discuss the topics that are relevant for the ancient history, and that could be the question could be asked from this upcoming exams from this topic. So let's start and see what are the topics we are covering in this session. Before we start, the images, text, and other materials used in our presentations are for educational purpose only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and owners. If you are the owner and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathi@iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the same. So first we have to discuss is the Harshvardhan period. So in Harshvardhan period, when we will discuss about the things that how the Vardhan period was basically started and how Harshvardhan became the king. So when we discuss about the Harshvardhan period, Harsha, also called Harshvardhan, was born in 590 CE, that is Common Era, and died in 647 CE. Was the ruler of a large empire in northern India from 606 CE to 647 CE. That means he became the king of the Vardhan Empire at a mere age of 16 only. Do remember that Harshvardhan Empire was also known as the Pushya Bhuti Empire. It was named after the founder of this empire, that was Pushya Bhuti. Harsha's reign seemed to mark a transition from the ancient to the medieval period when decentralization regional empires continually struggled for hegemony. So when we talk about the Harsha, so his empire was at the phase where the transition was almost started. By the end of the Harsha's empire, in the Middle East countries, the Islam was started and it was started expanding as well. Then they reached India by 712 AD. That is why we can say that this was the transition time from ancient to medieval. And also do remember that Harshvardhan was the last Hindu emperor of North India. He was the last ruler of the Vardhan Empire, the last great empire in ancient India before the Islamic invasion. After the fall of great Gupta Empire in the middle of the 6th century CE, under whom India saw its own golden age, it was Harshvardhan who unified most of northern India and ruled for 4 decades from his capital, Kanya-Kubja. So, if we talk about Harshvardhan, so before he became the king, there was a story that he was in so much trouble at that time that he had to fight different kingdoms and there was no one to back him. So at a mere age of 16 when he became the king, so he ruled for some particular 4 decades and most of his time the capital was Thaneshwar and later the capital was changed to Kannauj as well, where Kannauj after his death became a particular point of struggle and that is famously known as in medieval history as the tripartite struggle or the Kannauj struggle. Now let's talk about the Harsha's ascension. So when Prabhakara Vardhan died, his elder son Rajyavardhan ascended to Thaneshwar's kingdom. So before Prabhakar Vardhan, there was a king Pushya Bhuti. Pushya Bhuti is termed as the person who founded the Vardhan Empire. And after Pushya Bhuti, there was a time came when Prabhakar Vardhan reigned on this throne. He particularly had 3 children. One was Rajyavardhan, another one was Harshvardhan, and third one was a daughter named Rajshri. Harsha had a sister, Rajshri, who was married to Kannauj king, Grahavarman. Shashank, the god monarch, slew Grahavarman and imprisoned Rajshri. So there was a story that Grahavarman, he was the son-in-law of Prabhakar Vardhan. He was killed by 2 monarchs. One was Shashank, that was from god monarch, and the other one was from Malwa. And they together killed him. And Rajyashri was imprisoned by Shashank, and that became the whole story that how Harsha came to the throne. Because when Rajyavardhan went to save his sister, he was also killed by Shashank. And after that, Harshvardhan was the one who destroyed all of them, defeated all of them, released his sister from the prison of Shashank, and then he was ascended on the throne of the Vardhan Empire as well. This provoked Rajyavardhan to confront Shashank. However, Shashank assassinated Rajyavardhan. This led the 16-year-old Harshvardhan to ascend the throne of Thaneshwar in 606 AD. So, as I told you the whole story, so this was the story of Harshvardhan, that how he became the king at a mere age of 16. He vowed to avenge his brother's murder and also rescue his sister. He formed an alliance with Bhaskar Varman, the Kamrup ruler, who accomplished this. Harsha and Bhaskar Varman marched in opposition to Shashank. Shashank eventually left for Bengal, and Harsha became the king of Kannauj as well. So, as soon as Rajyashri was released from the prison, Harsha was not left with any choice but to also take over the Kannauj kingdom, because after the death of Grahavarman, there was no one left behind to rule the Kannauj. So that is why Kannauj was also taken or absorbed by the Vardhan Empire, and that is why also he later transferred his capital from Thaneshwar to Kannauj. Now let's talk about the empire of King Harshvardhan. So, on acquiring Kannauj, Harsha united the two kingdoms of Thaneshwar and Kannauj, and that is why he later transferred the capital to Kannauj, because Kannauj was more towards the center of his kingdom. One more point is that Kannauj was the area that has cultivation, that has appropriate number of cultivation, because this is the area of Doab, and apart from that, it is also equidistant from different places like the Gujarat, like the Bengal, and also from the Silk Route. He moved his capital to Kannauj. After the fall of the Guptas, North India was divided into many small kingdoms, because the feudal system was there in the Guptas, and because of which the empire was divided into small kingdoms. Harsha was able to unite many of them under his command. He had under his control of Punjab and central India. After Shashank's death, he annexed Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha as well. In Gujarat, he also vanquished the Vallabhi king, the Vallabhi monarch, and Harsha reached an agreement through a marriage between Harsha's daughter and the Vallabhi king, Dhruv Bhatta. So he was on his juggernaut towards Gujarat as well, and when he reached there, he defeated the Vallabhi king, and there was a settlement happened between both the kings, because of which Harsha's daughter was married to the Vallabhi king Dhruv Bhatt. However, Harsha's plan to conquer lands to the south were hampered when the Chalukya king Pulkeshin II defeated Harsha in 618 to 619 AD. This sealed Harsha's southern territorial limit as the Narmada river. So this particularly was the point where Harsha's juggernaut was stopped by Pulkeshin II, the Chalukya king, and this was the time of 618 to 619 when he was stopped, and the territory of Harsha was remained till his death on the upside, on the north of Narmada river only. Now let's talk more on this. So even the feudatories were under the tight command of Harsha. Harsha's reign marked the beginning of feudalism in India. So this was the time when Harsha was taking control of feudatories as well. He was particularly having them under his control only, and while having their control, he particularly also was taking care of any kind of dispute that arises, and also he was always in a look that if they are loyal or not. During Harsha's reign, Huenzang visited India. He has painted a fairly positive picture of King Harsha and his realm. He compliments him on his generosity and justice. So Huenzang, also known as the Prince of Pilgrims, was on a visit to India, and he remained in India for many years. He learned Sanskrit. After that, he got admission in Nalanda University. Nalanda University also got lot of donation from King Harshvardhan, and at that time the Nalanda University was more ally on Buddhism, and that is why Huenzang was learning about Buddhism as well in Nalanda. Later he became the teacher as well in Nalanda University, and he also wrote lot of things regarding Harshvardhan. Harsha was a generous supporter of the arts. He was a skilled writer in his own right. He is known for his Sanskrit writings Ratnavali, Priyadarshika, and Naganand. So, if we talk about Harshvardhan, so Harshvardhan was basically the person who wrote these three dramas or these three novels, I would say. And there was also a poet in his court, and that was known as Banbhat. And Banbhat was the person who wrote Harsh Charitra. So this question has been asked so many times in exams that who wrote Harsh Charitra, and you will find one option Harshvardhan always there. So do not get confused. The person Harshvardhan was not the person who wrote Harsh Charitra. He wrote three different books: Ratnavali, Priyadarshika, and Naganand. And if we talk about the other one, that was the Harsh Charitra. So that was written by Banbhat. Banbhat was his court poet and he composed the Harsh Charitra, which gives an account of Harsha's life and deeds. Harsh generously supported the Nalanda University. As I already said, that when Huenzang was studying there and later became a teacher, Harsha was basically supporting the Nalanda University on his own and gave a lot of donations for this purpose. He had an excellent tax structure. A quarter of the taxes collected were spent for charitable and cultural causes. So this was the time when all these things happened, and basically because of all these things, his kingdom was remained a vast empire, and that is why we call it the last Hindu emperor and the last Hindu empire of that time before the Islamic invasions. Harsha was a capable military conqueror and administrator. And if we talk about Harsha, so Harsha basically controlled the whole kingdom on his own. After the death of his father, his brother, and some other things happened to him. Harsha was the last king to rule over a vast empire in India before the invasions by the Muslims. So this was the time when the vast empire was basically ruled and by Harsha, and just after the death of Harsha, no one was able to control this vast empire. Basically, the kings in our country, they started conflicting between themselves over the Kannauj, because of which over the next 300 years they started weakening. And after that, in 1001 AD, Ghazni got the chance to enter into the Indian subcontinent, and he started invading and destroying all the things and looting all the things all over India. Now let's talk about the territories that were there under the control. So under Harsha, there were two sort of territories. One kind was directly under him, while the other was feudatories. So feudal system was also there in Gupta Empire, and that became one of the reasons of the decline of Gupta Empire. But in the time of Harsha, Harsha was taking the control and was taking everything under his observation. That is why the feudatories were able to be control the different territories, and Harsha was able to control this vast empire under him. Direct territories like central provinces, Bengal, Kaling, Rajputana, and Gujarat. So these are the areas which are under the direct territories, or you can say the direct control of Harshvardhan. And feudatories remained in Jalandhar, Kashmir, Kamrupa, Sindh, and Nepal. So you can see that most of the places that are on the boundary level with the neighboring countries are basically controlled by the feudatories, but still he controlled the empire very efficiently. And central province, Bengal, Kaling, Rajputana, Gujarat, all were under his control. Society and religion. The caste system was widespread among Hindus. They were split into 4 castes or varna: Brahmana, Vash, Kshatriya, and Shudra, each with its own subcaste. So this was the time when varna system and caste system was basically widespread among the territories, in whole territories. Women's standing has fallen from the liberal age of former times. So basically the status of women of basically at this time was not very liberal, and as it was in the time of Gupta Empire. Sati Pratha, widow immolation, was common, and widow remarriage was not allowed in higher castes. So if we talk about two very important aspects of the society, one is the Sati Pratha. So first evidence of Sati Pratha came from the Iran edict, where the particular friend of the king died, and his wife particularly did this sati, and this was became the first inscription or first written evidence of sati at that time. Later, during the Harshvardhan, it became a kind of a common thing, and widow remarriage in higher caste was not allowed, and both these things prevailed in India for almost around 1200 years and finally ended in the 19th century. One was ended by the help of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and other was ended by the help of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Harsha was a worshipper of Shiva in the beginning, but later became a Mahayana Buddhist. Remember, Mahayana Buddhists were the follower of idol worshipping in Buddhism. Yet he was tolerant of other faiths, and that is why we can see that all the particular religions are prevailing at that time, and basically Nalanda University was whole based on Buddhism. With a view to popularize and propagate the doctrines of Mahayana Buddhism, Harsha arranged at Kanya Kubja a great assembly which was presided over by Huenzang in 643 CE. So this all happened during this time, and that is why he also became one of the follower of Mahayana Buddhism. Now let's talk about the art and education of his time. So Harsha supported both art and education. He was also an author, having written 3 Sanskrit dramas, Naganan, Ratnavali and Priyadarshika. 1/4 of his earnings were used to support students. And if we talk about the three dramas that he written were Naganan, Ratnavali and Priyadarshika. Remember them. They had been asked so many times. Furthermore, Huenzang describes the prestigious Nalanda University, which was at its peak during Harsha's rule, and describing it, he also told about the largest library of that time that was later burned by Bakhtiyar Khilji when he was on his way to conquer Bengal. The curriculum included Vedas, Buddhism, philosophy, logic, urban planning, medicine, law, astronomy, etc. So all these things were the part of the curriculum that were taught in Nalanda University. Also, a famous Indian writer and poet named Banbhat served as the Asthana Kavi, primary poet of the kingdom in the court of Harshvardhan, and he was the one who wrote Harsh Charitra. Now let's talk about the death and legacy. So Harsha's dominion saw the birth of feudalism in India, and with the help of that he controlled this vast empire. Land was allocated in villages, giving local landowner influence. This resulted in the empire's decline and the emergence of local feuds. Harsha had to be constantly on the go to keep everything in order. After ruling over most parts of North India for more than 40 years, Harsha died in 647 CE. So he became the king in 606 and died in 647. Since he did not have any heir, his empire collapsed and disintegrated rapidly into small states. So he did not have any children or son who can take over. So that is why after his death, the empire collapsed. The demise of King Harshvardhan marked the end of the mighty Vardhan dynasty. Now let's talk about some important literatures of that time. So here are the list of some important books that have been written. Let's talk about them. So first one is the Mudra Rakshasa, and that was written by Vishagdat. Remember that, it is important one. Then Raj Tarangini, it was written by Kalhan. Then Katha Sarit Sagar, that was written by Shwet Somdev. Kam Sutra was written by Vatsayan. Prashnottar Malika was written by Amog Varsh. Swapan Vasdatam was written by Bhasha. Buddha Charitra written by Ashwaghosh. Remember this one, very important. Then Natya Shastra was written by Bharat Muni. Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Vikram or Vashi and Raghu Vansan were written by Kalidas. Then Amar Kosh was written by Amar Simha. Panch Siddhantika or Brihat Samhita were written by Vraha Mihir. Surya Siddhant was written by Aryabhat. Panchtantra was written by Vishnu Sharma. Nitisar was written by Kamandaka. Do remember, all these books are really important. Let's talk more on art and education. So some more books are here, like Indica was written by Megasthenes. He was the ambassador sent by Seleucus Nicator in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. Then came the Arth Shastra, that was written by Kautilya, and Kautilya, famously known as Chanakya and also known as Vishnugupta, real name. Charak Samhita was written by Charak. Then Leelavati was written by Bhaskar II. Harsh Charitra, Kadambari, these are the two books written by Banbhat, whereas Naganand and Ratnavali are written by Harshvardhan along with Priyadarshika. Then Gatha Sapta Shati, it was written by Hala. Ashtadhyayi, very important. It is a grammar of Sanskrit, was written by Panini. Panini was the rishi or sage who introduced the Sanskrit grammar. Then Mahabhashya, very important, was written by Patanjali, and it is again a particular commentary on the Sanskrit grammar. Then Nai Sada Charitra, it was basically written by Sri Harsh. Then Mrichakatika was written by Shudrak, and Gita Govinda was written by Jaydev. Very important book. It has been asked so many times. Navratan was written by Virsena. Now let's talk more on important inscriptions. So Ayodhya. Ayodhya was basically the inscription, and it was written by, or it was given by Pushyamitra Sung. Then Base Nagar was written or inscripted by Vasudev Bagbhadra. Hathi Gumpha was written by Kharvela, king of Kaling. Aihole, that was written by Pulkeshin II. Gwalior was basically written by Bhoja. Allahabad was written by Samudragupta, and that was famously known as the Prayag Prashasti, and it was basically tells us about Samudragupta and was written by Harishen. Then Junagadh was built by Rudra Daman. Bitari was built by Skandgupta, and Nanaghat was written during about Satkarni I. Then Nasik tells about the Gautami Putra Satkarni, and Mandsaur was basically written by Yasho Dharman. Let's talk more on this, ancient travelers to India. So Damachus, 3rd century BC. Damachus was the son of Chandragupta Maurya, the Mauryan Empire's second king, and a Greek envoy to Bindusar's court. And do remember that in the court of Chandragupta Maurya, Megasthenes came, and Chandragupta Maurya was known as Sandrocotus in Greek language, and Bindusar was known as Amitrochates. Megasthenes was there from 302 to 298 BC, and Megasthenes was Seleucus diplomat who visited India during the reign of Chandragupta Maurya. So after Chandragupta Maurya defeated Seleucus Nicator in 305, Megasthenes was sent as an ambassador, and he also wrote a book, Indica. During his tour to India, he authored a book called Indica about the country, and in which he told about the administrative and social system of the Mauryan Empire. He referred to Chandragupta Maurya as Sandrocotus. Then came the Fayan. Fayan came during the time 405 to 411 AD. He was a Buddhist monk from China who came to India during Chandragupta's second Vikramaditya's reign. On his tour to India, he visited Lumbini, that is Buddha's birthplace. His travelogue was called Record of Buddhist Kingdom. So Fayan was the person who came during this time. Huenzang, he came during the time 630 to 645 AD. Huenzang was another Buddhist monk from China who came to India during Harshvardhan's reign. He wrote the records of Western world, also called Siyuki. He was called to King Harshvardhan's court after becoming a guest to the Kamrupa's ruler, Bhaskar Varman. Bhaskar Varman was an ally of Harshvardhan, along with whom they defeated Shashank, the emperor of God Empire. And if we talk about Huenzang, Huenzang was also famously known as the Prince of Pilgrims. Now let's talk more on this. Then came the Ice Singh. So Ice Singh visited India during the reign of Harshvardhan, and his time period was from 671 to 695 AD. He was a Chinese wanderer who had journeyed to India to study Buddhism. He published several biographies of Indian monks. Al-Masudi. He came during in 957 AD. Al-Masudi was a traveler who visited India from Arabia in the middle of the 10th century AD. He described his views on India in his book Muruz ul Zihab. Then came the Al-Baruni. Al-Baruni was there from 1024 to 1030 AD. Al-Baruni traveled to India with Mahmud of Ghazni. He was a Persian scholar who visited India. His work Tahqiq-e-Hind discussed India. He has also been dubbed the father of Indology for his contribution. And if we talk about Al-Baruni, he came along with Firdausi during the time of Mahmud Ghazni. And Al-Baruni became the first Muslim scholar who also read the Vedas that are written in Sanskrit. Some more on this traveler thing. So Marco Polo was from 1292 to 1294 AD. Marco Polo came during the reign of Rudra Dam Devi of the Kaktiyas. He was a European scholar who entered India from the south. He wrote the book of Sir Marco Polo, which gives an invaluable account of Indian economic history. So do remember that he came in the court of Kaktiyas. Kaktiyas were the one who gave the Kohinoor diamond to Malik Kafur when he attacked on Kaktiya dynasty. Ibn Battuta, he came from 1333 to 1347 AD. In the 14th century, under the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he journeyed from Morocco to India and penned Rehla. Morocco is a country that you can find in Africa. Then Niccolo Conti. Niccolo Conti was there from 1420 to 1421. Niccolo Conti was a merchant from Italy who came to India while Devrai I of the Sangam dynasty of the Vijayanagar Empire was ruling. Then came the Abdul Razak. He came from 1443 to 1444. He was a Persian scholar. He was also a Persian ambassador. He came during the reign of Devrai II of the Vijayanagar Empire. Some more on this travelers. Duarte Barbosa. He came during 1500 to 1516 AD. Duarte Barbosa was a Portuguese traveler who visited India in the early 16th century. His writings include details about the Vijayanagar Empire's people and government. And that's it in this session, guys. I hope you learned a lot of things with me in this session about the ancient history. I will meet you in the next session in which we will discuss more on history. And till the time we meet, bye bye. Take care everyone and see you soon.